You're listening to the Align and Inspire podcast. In this episode, we are going to dive into learning styles and if your program, does it really work for different learning styles? Should you include them? And what can you do to really increase engagement and make sure that your program is transformational, to make sure that your program is supporting different students, different clients in the way that they learn best? And that is what we're going to be diving into in this week's episode. But before we continue, I want to let you know that my signature program design, is open, but only for a few short days. So if you are listening to this live at the time of recording, signature program design registration for it is now open, and signature program design is my signature process that helps you design a program that is aligned, that feels good to you, that is transformational, that creates amazing results for your clients, and that you can actually fill, that feels aligned for you. And so you can really create that growing, consistent revenue in your business. So if you've ever created a program before that maybe felt heavy, that felt scattered, that felt off in some ways, maybe you couldn't sell it, it just wasn't quite right, I want to encourage you, because oftentimes your first or second offer isn't your home run offer. It actually happens after you've iterated and after you've had a few tries. And that is what I help you do in signature program design. It's about how to structure your content in a way that gets transformation, in a way that feels really good to you, in a way that you can clearly articulate what it is that you do, in a way that allows you to fill your programs and feel really good about the program that you run. Because I have to tell you, in the 7 years that I've been running my business, the thing that has made the biggest impact is having one signature offer that I can sell and again. That's the thing that's brought me consistent revenue, growing revenue, instead of just creating new offers every few weeks like I used to. Having one signature program is the thing that made the difference for me in my business, and I want to show you how to do the same. So if you want to hear more of signature program design is right for you, reach out to me on Instagram with the words signature program, and we can chat and see if it would be a good fit for you. The doors are open for only a short period of time. And if you know you're ready to create your program, the one that you can count on, that creates that predictable revenue, I would love to have a chat with you to see if it would be a good fit. So send me a message on Instagram with the words signature program, and we will get on with today's episode. So the reason that I wanted to bring this topic to the podcast is because I was in a coaching call with my clients, and we were talking about a concept called differentiation. And this is one of those things that I never ever imagined that I would be talking about with entrepreneurs. I thought it would just be an education thing. But differentiation is a term that teachers use. And the reason that my entrepreneur clients found it so helpful is because it allows you to help people in your programs who are at different levels. So the reason I love differentiation is, first off, if you get people who are at different levels in your program, you can help those people at different levels. You don't want it to be too wide, but if there's someone who has a little bit more experience, you can help them at different levels. But the big reason that it can really help you in your business is because it allows for more it increases your lifetime customer value because you can have renewals in place. So say you run your program, it goes well, you want to have a continuation offer, and you want to bring in new clients, but you have a bunch of alumni who still want to work with you. You can use differentiation strategies to bring them into your next cohort and still help those clients while supporting your new clients using strategies in differentiation. So we were talking about this last week, and I had a question around differentiation of learning styles. So how can you make sure that you are helping your students or your clients in their different learning, like modality or their strategy to really absorb and learn your material in the best way possible so they can adopt it and really make use of it in their lives, right? And how can we do this in a way that's intentional in our programs? And at first I thought about creating a lesson on it, but if you've been listening to me for some time, you likely know that one of the things that I'm wary of in your programs is a lot of people overwhelm their clients with too much content and create too much, and it just overwhelms your clients. It's a fire hose. And you don't want to put in content that's like a nice to have. You want to have that essential content that's going to get your clients to the result in the fastest way possible. And this was one of those things that I think I could include in my program, but I thought, you know what, let's do a podcast episode on it because I think it can really be helpful for my clients who ask this question, but it can be helpful for you as well. And this might be for you if you've been thinking about, how do you include different learning styles? How can you include different styles to help people succeed in your program? And so that is what I wanted to get into in this week's episode. So the first big idea that I want to share with you in this episode is this idea of learning styles. So if you've heard of it before, it's this idea like if you're an auditory learner, a visual learner, a kinesthetic learner, and so forth, and if you should actually consider it. And even though it's a very common thing that people say, oh, I'm an auditory learner or I'm a visual learner, like people will say to me often when I do when I do calls, one-on-one calls, like I like to draw things out on an iPad and people say, oh, I love that so much. That was so helpful. I'm a really visual person. And I think there can be truth to it. But when you actually look at the research and when you look at studies around learning styles, like the idea that someone has this regular style, this style that's really that they're going to use on a regular basis to absorb material, that there's one style that someone has on a regular basis over another, it's actually a myth. There aren't, as of right now, studies that really back this up, even though it's a very common idea in the education world and even I know when I was in university, people talked about it as well, but it isn't actually something that has been proven scientifically. So the first thing I would say is you don't necessarily really need to consider or worry too much about learning styles in your program, but there are some other distinctions that I want to introduce you to today that are really going to help you. But you can consider, making sure as you're chatting through something in your program, like if you're creating lessons, for example, you might want to have visual supports because people are going to understand what you're saying. If you do it visually, you might want to have frameworks, like visual frameworks. That's a new lesson that I'm going to be adding to Signature Program Design, is how to add frameworks, like visual frameworks, like shapes to what you're teaching about, because that can help people remember what it is that you're talking about. You want to make sure that people can listen to what you're doing, because that can help people who maybe prefer learning in an auditory way. You can have writing and things like that to help people who are maybe more kinesthetic. So you can do it, but know that it's not a requirement to help different learners. Like if someone's an auditory learner, they're not going to learn visually. That's actually, as far as the research goes, is a myth. So what should you include or what should you consider to help different styles? Because I think you and I can both agree that people are going to learn differently, right? So we're going to look at 3 elements that you should include that can really make a big difference to how people absorb your content, interact with your content, and really apply the content that you're working through to get the result in your program. So the first thing is more about the support that you provide, and it's about the pace of your program. The pace of your program. And I want to share how to think about it using, if you've been listening to me for a little while, the sacred money archetypes. So the pace of your program is how quickly can someone consume your content and get results, or how, I don't want to say slowly, but can they go at a pace that is right for them? So if you're running a group coaching program, sometimes people will just run everything live, right? They'll have live sessions and you need to attend the sessions to get the results. Now, I think this works really well for a first beta round, but eventually I would recommend what I call having core content or like course content so people can go through it at their own pace. And the reason for this is, first off, it's much easier if you want to look back at a concept as a student, to go back to a specific video and look at it again rather than trying to scroll through a recording of an hour-long workshop, right? Like, I always recommend to my students that their lessons be between like 5 to 20 minutes. Mine are usually about 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes long. So you want to have these shorter videos that people can refer back to if they're ever wondering about a concept that they were learning in your program. But the other reason that I think it's really important is through the sacred money archetypes. So your sacred money archetype, your archetype is it's like your subconscious patterns around money. It's how you see money, how you interact with money. And when you're aware of your top archetype, you can work within your strengths and avoid your sabotages. And this is something that I've been including in signature program design because I've seen just how much of an impact not knowing your archetype has had on my clients and whether or not they go to launch their program or not. And so you can use this with your clients as well. And even if you don't know the archetypes, this is something to consider. So there are clients who are, and maybe this is you if you're listening, who like to move really quickly. They're going to be the people who want to have fast results, who take action quickly, who are really fast action takers. They're the people that buy quickly, that discover you and buy within 5 to 7 days later, or maybe within a couple of weeks. They're the people that jump in, that take action right away, that get quick results. Like, I had a client who joined Signature Program Design, and she'd been thinking about creating a program for a while. And when she decided to join my program, 2 weeks later, she launched her beta version of her program. She launched it, filled it, like 2 weeks she was on, right? So she's like one of those fast action takers. So those are going to be archetypes like rulers, who are very ambitious, mavericks, who are bold and innovative and like to do it their own way, and often alchemists. So my client who launched within 2 weeks is an alchemist. They're the kind of people that have a lot of ideas, see a lot of possibility in the world. So that's going to work really well for those archetypes, right? And I think there's a push in the online business world to take fast action and quick wins and get results and go fast and like money like speed and all those kinds of ideas, which work really well for those archetypes. However, that might not be who you generally bring into your program, or it might not work for all of your clients. So generally speaking, I do attract a lot of rulers because I'm a ruler and I like to work with people who are ambitious. But I also attract a lot of nurturers and accumulators. So nurturers are those people who, if you've ever said, I want someone to hold my hand in a program, or if you really care about nurturing, about being kind and thoughtful, like if you really love taking care of people, of animals, of plants, like you might be a nurturer. Or accumulators are the people who are really good with money, responsible, really like step-by-step structured people. Accumulators and nurturers often like to go a little bit slower. And the pace that a lot of business programs run at, where it's just like, go, 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 just leap, take the action, take fast action, isn't necessarily going to work for those archetypes. They like to go at their own speed. So when you think about the pace of your program, if you can allow for different clients to go at their own speed and their own pace, people are going to feel a sense of relief that they can go at their own speed. Like rulers like me want to get fast action, and they want to get, like, if you're a ruler like me, you want to get in my program and get a result right away, which I can help you with. But if you're a nurturer, you might want to be able to go at your own speed, not launch too fast, not feel pressured, and I can help you with that too. So you want to make it work for different students and allow them to go at their own pace. So that's the first big idea, is if you want to create a program that's supportive of different styles, consider the pacing of your program, and are you allowing people to go at their own pace. The next big idea to think about is, I think, an often overlooked ingredient, especially for me, that I think every program should really have, especially in the age of AI. And 50% or more of your clients are going to need this. So when we look at AI, content is becoming a commodity, right? You could, like, if you wanted to, you could ask ChatGPT to create a whole course for you, right? Might not be good. Don't do that. You need to know the right prompts to make it work. And even then, I'm kind of, I'm so on that. But to make AI work, like, content is a commodity, right? And to make it work, you need to have the right prompts. But content is a commodity. What people are going to join your program for is the support they need to actually apply the content, to integrate the content. So I always talk about balancing your learn-do ratio. Are you helping your clients actually take action on what it is that you're working through or teaching them, right? And so the ingredient that I think every program should have, that I am working to create more of in signature program design, is accountability. Accountability. And the reason that this is so crucial when I think about it, on top of AI, is from one of my favorite writers. Her name is Gretchen Rubin. She has done a study, she had a book on it, if you've ever heard of it. And she's done a lot of research on what she calls the 4 tendencies. And the 4 tendencies is about how you respond to inner and outer expectations. So the way I always like to describe this is, say you want to run a marathon. No, thank you. I'm never going to run a marathon, but let's just be honest. So imagine you want to run a marathon. Someone who readily responds to inner expectations might say, I'm going to get up every day at 6 and go for a run 5 days a week. I have no idea how much you need to train for a marathon. I'm just making this up. But say you're going to go out and run 5 days a week, and you're like, I really want to run that marathon. This is what I'm going to do. And if you respond to inner expectations, you're going to go for it. If you struggle to meet internal expectations, but you meet outer expectations, if you have a personal trainer or a running group who is counting on you to do that running with them, you are more likely to go running at 6 a.m. than you would by yourself. So knowing how you respond, or that your clients respond to outer and inner expectations differently, means that accountability can be huge, because accountability is external, like an external expectation, right? And the reason that I don't think about it naturally all that much is because I am a questioner. So a questioner is someone who readily responds to inner expectations, but questions all outer expectations. So if I think it's reasonable, I will do it. And if I think it's BS, I am less likely to do it. So like when I used to teach, having to go to meetings that I was like, this could have been said in an email and this was a waste of time, I really struggled to go to those kinds of meetings, because it felt like I made it happen because I was like, I know I have to, like, it's kind of expected of me to keep my job. But I struggled to meet that because I was like, this is BS. So those are, like, questioners don't need as much accountability, generally speaking. However, 50% of the population, based on Gretchen Rubin studies, are obligers. And obligers are people who readily respond to outer expectations and struggle to respond to inner expectations. They're the people who make amazing colleagues, coworkers, people. If you have any, if you have people in your team who really want to meet your expectations, who want to do a great job, they often make great friends because they're always thinking about others. But they're the kind of people, and maybe if you're listening, if you're like this, who find it hard to meet their own needs and their own expectations and need external accountability in order to meet their own goals. And so this is why this is so important when you think about your program, is if 50% of the population tends towards the obliger, struggles to meet their own expectation, or even, I can't remember what her percentages is, I want to say 15%, but I could be off on that, is upholders, someone who responds to inner and outer expectations alike. A lot of people can really benefit from having accountability in your program in order to get the results. And so when you say like there's this idea that, only 3% of people complete courses, and that's just to be expected. Now, I would much rather have a more immersive experience with coaching and support. Just sending videos isn't my style, but I also think that might be skewed because if 50% of the population only responds to outer expectations and you just give them videos to watch, they're not necessarily going to watch it because there's no one holding them accountable. So you want to have some form of accountability in your program to help people take the actions that they want to take and help them reach their goals. So a few ways that you can think about accountability is in my program, what I'm running now that I'm testing over the summer is a Telegram group. So I find it a little bit more close knit, I guess, than a Facebook group. It's a little bit more like high touch, I guess. And basically Telegram is a little bit like WhatsApp to me, but it doesn't share your phone numbers, which is why I like it. And so I'll send messages to my clients every day. If they ask questions in the group, I will respond back in the same day. They can connect with one another in the Telegram group. But the big thing for accountability is at the beginning of the week, if you want accountability, and I used to do this with teachers and I'd kind of forgotten until recently with entrepreneurs, but I'm bringing it back, is at the beginning of the week, I'll say, what are your goals or your priorities for this week? Let us know below and I'll check in with you on Friday to see how it went. And so people can post, this is what I want to get accomplished this week. Especially oftentimes, like I'll have clients who are like, oh, I want to do this scary thing, but I'm wary of it. And then I can help you kind of like get through that belief or take the leap or what's stopping you from doing that scary thing. And then on Friday, I can reach out and say, how did it go? Were you able to do that? And provide more of that accountability for you. So that's one way is you can do it in a group like Facebook groups or Telegram if you're using that, or Slack or whatever your group program is. If you have if you have more of like a membership kind of a program or a higher volume program, you can also set up things like encouraging people to post in your community, or even having like accountability buddies, like facilitating accountability buddies where you can connect with somebody else and they can provide accountability for one another. That's one idea I've seen that works well in like fitness groups, for example. Another thing you can do is have check-ins. Some of my clients like to have a weekly survey that they send out, and then their clients can fill out a short survey weekly, and then the coach kind of looks over it and touches base. So it's another way of providing accountability for people. So different ways. You could also check in and say, like, if you have weekly calls, say, okay, what's your action step? And then next week, did you do it? Right? You can provide different accountability like that. It's funny because even as I say it, I am a person who is a questioner and I tip rebel. So I don't like people telling me what to do. And I really don't want you to I don't, it's not that I have a problem with it, but I do not need you to ask me how it went this week. Like, I'm just going to do it. Like, I don't have a problem doing it, but I know that's not true for everyone. So if you're like me and you're like, why would anyone need that? A lot of people do. So providing accountability in your program is huge to get people results and getting people taking action. And the last way that you can help different learning styles in your program is this one really important and very simple distinction, and it's about how people process. And it's kind of a tendency. It's not like a hard and fast, but are you a person who thinks to speak, or are you a person who speaks to think? So I first started including this actually when I was a teacher, and what I found was, before I learned this kind of distinction, is I noticed that there were some kids who, and I taught high school, who would always respond to my questions, would always interact with group discussions, would participate in debates. They would raise their hands, they would go for it. And then other people wouldn't speak much. And at first I thought, oh, they're shyer, they don't like to speak all that much. But when they had a little bit more space, they would. And when I learned this distinction, do you speak to think or think to speak? When I asked my classes and said, do you think you're a person who naturally speaks to think or thinks to speak? The kids who participated all the time in class, maybe this is you if you talked a lot in class, spoke to think. They clarify their ideas by speaking. Like I'm that kind of person. That's why podcasting is really easy for me because I speak to think. I'll think it out as I speak with friends of mine, my peer mastermind, my coach. That's how I kind of clarify my ideas. But half the kids who didn't readily speak very much in my classes think to speak. So this might be you if you're the kind of person that likes to gather your thoughts first. Maybe you think about it, maybe you write it down, maybe you kind of mull it over, and then you feel capable to speak it out. And if you are a speak to think person, sometimes we have a tendency to to go again, pace, to move through the information too quickly. And so this thing to speak people just never speak, and they never really ask their questions. They never share their thoughts, and they don't necessarily have the chance to really mull over the information and absorb it and think about how they're going to apply it in their own way because we move too quickly and everyone's just talking. So what you want to do to include this is to have, when you're running your live group sessions or your workshops or live events, is you want to have opportunities for people to think to speak and for people who speak to think. So think to speak, what I would like, a perfect example is if I'm running, I like to run breakout rooms for the people who speak to think. But before I do that, I give you the prompts, and then I might give you some time to kind of reflect on how you want to answer that, how you're going to apply it in your business, what you're going to think through on how you're going to do this. So for example, when I was doing my differentiation workshop, I said, like, these are the different ways that you can differentiate in your group sessions, in your core content, outside of your content, in your, like, in support. Like, these are the 3 ways. So I said for my breakout rooms, which of all these ideas, what are the 1 to 3 that you're going to apply in your program, right? But instead of just opening up a breakout room and then giving that prompt, that's not going to work for the think to speak people. So I always like to give them some time to write it down, think it through, reflect on it quietly so no one's talking, which is the hard one if you're a speak to think person. And then I open up breakout rooms and people can talk it through. So giving people opportunity to think to speak, writing, journaling, reflecting, visualizing quietly, and then having the opportunity to do hot seats and speaking and sharing, that's going to help both styles and can really help people engage with your material and take action on what you're doing rather than just blowing through your material and just teaching the whole time. You want people engaging with what you're teaching and what you're coaching on. So let's recap what we've talked about in this podcast. So the first thing is learning styles is actually a myth. You want to consider different, visuals, ways for people to listen in if they're listening. To me, this is more really about like your lifestyle. Like, I'm a mom. I like listening to lessons. I don't always have the space I don't want to prioritize sitting in front of a lesson this whole time, but I'll listen to it as I'm driving or something. So we want to have a way of like helping people listen, of helping people see. Yes. But the things that I like to consider instead of learning styles is the pace. So I allow my students to go at their own pace. Ways of increasing and including accountability. So if they're going at their own pace, they're not just falling off. You're actually helping them stay on track. And increasing engagement with this distinction of speaking to think and thinking to speak so that everyone can work through your content at their own pace. So I hope this episode was helpful for you, how you can really include different learning styles in your program to get even better results. And if you know you are ready to create your signature program, to create a program that really creates transformation, that supports your clients, and you want to create one that feels aligned, that you know you can fill, and really feels good to you, the one that can really develop that growing, consistent, predictable revenue in your business, and you want some support with that, I would love to hear from you, and doors are open to my program for a few short days. So you can reach out to me on Instagram with the word signature program, and we can have a chat and see if it would be the right fit for you. So thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Align and Inspire podcast, and I will see you again next week.